Ayo! So, I just got home from shooting my Nia cosplay from Dead by Daylight. I did have to debruise myself. My neighbor gave me a very concerned look when I came home, so I decided to debruise right away. But I wanted to do a quick little video to show you guys how I made my med kit. I am super proud of this thing. It turned out so good, and I wanted to share how I did this with you guys if you are ever interested on how to make something like this. So my original plan was to get one of those hard shell lunch boxes. However, I think those died in the 90s. So I ended up going to Michael's and getting one of their clear storage bin kit things. It has like removable parts and all that kind of stuff, but it was super clear and see-through, so I painted it. I also picked up a big bottle of red paint because this was about 3 coats of paint before it became opaque enough to my liking. Other things I used, I have a whole array of small little tubes of paint, and I used a couple different colors to make the design and weather it. I already had some foam, so I cut a piece out and hot glued it to the top. All in all, I only spent about $10 on this. All I had to buy was the red paint and the box itself. I had everything else, all the other color paints and the foam at home myself. But you could probably get the foam and some of the other colors pretty cheap as well. So all in all, this is a pretty cheap little prop to make. So if you guys are interested in seeing how I did this, I will show you guys that time lapse and explain what I did. So I forgot to take any type of before photo or video of the box, but basically it was just one of those clear boxes from Michael's. I'll insert a photo of it here. And I just plopped the paint straight onto it and covered the whole thing in about 3 coats of just typical acrylic paint. This is coat 3 here. I used a brush and I also used a sponge brush just to try to get it as even as possible. I did notice that the paint was trying to like come up in some sections and not in others, so I worked on that and made sure that it was as even as possible to be opaque and pretty solid. After I let that dry, I went ahead and painted on the white cross. I didn't stencil it on, I probably should have, but it turned out great either way. I have a pretty steady hand, so I just went ahead and just painted it straight to it. And it didn't need to be perfect because I was going to dirty it up anyway. And then here I used the bottom of a Halloween cup to do my circle, which was off center, but you know, again, it doesn't need to be perfect. I just went ahead and made sure that that went on pretty opaque as well. And it was not perfect because I was going to dirty this thing up and make it gross anyway, so it did not need to be perfect at all. And then came my favorite part, weathering. First thing I did was I took really watered down black paint and just glopped it on, let it sit for a second, and then wiped it off with a paper towel, which just created a dirty, gross look. And I just kept doing more layers of that until I was happy with the product. Next, I added some raw umber, burnt sienna, and yellow ochre, and used that as a weathering tool. What I did was I started with the raw umber and added that as dirt in more areas that the black didn't do enough for. The sienna and the ochre, that was more of a rusty kind of look. And I just added those colors where the metal would rust and fade away so that there was color showing beneath, as well as just some dirt and grime that had covered the box as well. And then finally, I just cut out a hunk of foam that was the right length for the box, used my heat gun to meld it a little bit, used the box as a reference, and made it shape itself into a handle. And then I used a silver Sharpie and a copper Sharpie to create a little bit of rust marks and where some of the black paint would fade away from it. And then I just glued it on to the box with some hot glue and some super glue. I really hope you guys find this little tutorial helpful. I just think this was the perfect little prop for me to add to my shoot. It really brought in Dead by Daylight and made it pretty succinct that this was the character from the game. And I thought it was perfect to add as a little extra piece. So if you guys are ever working on something like this, it's pretty easy and simple to do. If you guys would like to see all of my cosplay photos, you can follow me over on Instagram at GiftedFaker. You can follow me on Twitter and on Facebook as well with that same at GiftedFaker. And of course, subscribe to this channel like this video, comment down below what your next cosplay adventure is gonna be. Bye-bye. Don't drop the box.